everyone, welcome back to our Accounting 210. In this video, we will look at the chapter 11, the practice. So let's look at all the questions there. Again, I post my note to the okay. I put this to the my accounting lab, the practice here. So we go to chapter 11, right? We go to chapter 11. I put it here first. Okay. Chapter 11, what did you learn? Do you still remember what did you learn in chapter 11? Chapter 11 basically is about standard cost, right? Standard cost, AS, and SS, those things. We talk about 4 items: direct material variance, direct labor variance, variable manufacturing overhead variance, and a fixed manufacturing overhead variance. I put a lot of questions here, 51 actually, but many questions, they are very similar. I think I'm not going to cover all of them. I put many practice for you, so you can have different numbers, just to practice. Okay, before we talk about the details, so let's first a quick review, very quick review of chapter 11, standard cost and variance, right? So we said basically for direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing overhead, and then we should have actual, standard. This is either called price variance or rate variance because you only change the price, right? So the first is always the quantity, and then second is the dollar amount. Then this is called as efficiency or quantity variance, efficiency variance. And we said total, this is flexible budget variance. Sorry. Make sure you know the calculation and then also interpretation for direct material and direct labor. For the fixed manufacturing overhead, we have actual, we have a budget, we have the standard, right? So this is called as budget variance, and this is called as the volume variance, right? Volume variance. Make sure how do you calculate and then how do you interpret it. So if you know what I'm talking about, that's very good. If you don't know, I would say go back to your notes and then read your textbook. Okay, first one, standard cost for production is carefully predetermined that it most is for one unit basis, right? This is correct. So this is related with learning objective 1. What's the meaning of standard cost? Standard cost is the concept of budget cost, but it's for one unit. So this is, I think, is correct. Okay, next one. Again, for the concept question, you will not say the same question, but kind of got the general idea where you go to find this concept in the textbook. The second, direct material price variance tells manager how much the total variance is due to paying higher or lower price. This is right? This is right because this is how do you interpret price variance? How do you interpret price variance? Next one, circumstances can occur that result in favorable direct material price variance but unfavorable material quantity variance. Yeah, it happens. This is actually the textbook example, right? So you have a favorable price variance, but you have an unfavorable quantity variance. Look at your textbook to find the interpretation and the example. So it's possible, right? It's possible. One situation is you may buy, cheaper material that you have favorable price variance, but you have to use more quantity because of the low quality. So it's possible. The interpretation is very important for direct material and direct labor. A raw material ruined through mistake during production result in material quantity variance. This is right? Because you have to use more quantity. So I believe this is right. And then if you have this for the quantity variance, which manager you should go to ask for? Production manager. For the price variance, which manager you should go to ask for? Purchase manager, right? Next one, which variance is directly impacted if a worker drops the raw material and the raw material must be scoured? So you drop the material, then you have to use more. So we will have unfavorable quantity variance. We will have, so it's more about direct material. So it's direct material quantity variance. You will have an unfavorable direct material quantity variance. Company use sugar in producing, the price of sugar doubles price of direct material. So this will be your direct material price variance, and then it will be unfavorable. Which of the following situation may lead to favorable price variance? So that means your actual purchase price is cheaper. Purchase manager paid a premium. No. Purchase manager able to negotiate a lower price. Yeah, this is the correct one. This is the correct one. Now make sure you know why the others are not correct. Choice A, you will have unfavorable, right? Unfavorable price variance. Raw material restated, so you will have the quantity variance, right? Vendor shipped a greater quantity of raw material, so that will be also quantity, okay? Okay, next one. A favorable direct material price variance indicate which the actual quantity, no, it's not about quantity, it's price. Standard cost of material purchased greater than the actual. Yeah, so that means your actual is lower than the standard, right? That is lower standard than the standard. So your standard is higher, your actual is lower. Actual cost of the purchase was no. Okay, so make sure you put a lot of situations, so you have to understand that you cannot just memorize. You cannot just memorize. The interpretation one more time is very important. Direct material, direct labor. The direct material flexible budget, direct material flexible budget variance. Okay, flexible. We just talk about that, right? We said flexible budget variance can be divided to price and quantity, price and quantity variance, right? Price and quantity variance. Next one, a favorable direct material price variance, unfavorable direct material quantity variance. That's just your textbook example. We just talk about that. You purchase lower quality, so it's cheaper but lower quality. Less expensive. Inferior material require less than the standard amount were used. No. So if you use less than standard amount, you will have a favorable quantity. But now you have an unfavorable quantity. So you use more, less expensive, cheaper, you know, and you use more quantity, you use more amount because it's lower quality. You have to use double, maybe, let's say. Okay. Tells the manager how much of the total direct material varies due to using more or less material. Use more or less, it's all about your quantity, right? Quantity variance is all about the quantity. Next one. Oh, seems we have a lot of interpretation for direct material. So if you know direct material, kind of you can carry same logic to direct labor. So I think I put a lot of interpretation examples for direct material. So now we want to get calculation, right? So you have an actual, standard. This one asking about quantity variance, so I just put it here. Direct material standard 2 pounds at least. Direct material flexible budget variance. Okay, so total is this actual direct material used and then actual finished goods produced. Okay, so asking about your quantity. Based on standard, the price is the standard said each pound is 0.53. I said, do me a favor when you do that, also put it here because they both use standard price. Actual, you used actual material used, you used 39,000 pounds. Okay, 39,000 pounds. And then your standard said for one unit, you should use 2 pounds. Totally, you use 27,000 units, and then each one you use 2 pounds. So that gives you 54,000, right? I believe. So standard said 54,000, but you actually only use 39,000. You will have a favorable. You will have favorable. Without any calculation, you should know it's favorable. And then how much favorable? So let's look at this number. 54,000 minus 39,000, and then we time 0.53. So you will have a 7950 favorable as the quantity variance. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so that's how do you get the quantity variance? How do you get the quantity variance? So I said, let me ask you one more question. So you get 7950 as a favorable quantity, but I told you total is 9,000 unfavorable. This is flexible budget variance. And then I'll ask you, hey, what is your price variance? And then you should be able to know your price variance has to be 16,900. So it has to be 16,950 unfavorable, right? So you have this unfavorable, you plus this favorable, then you will get overall is 9,000 unfavorable. Okay, let's talk about the standard material price variance, right? Standard material price variance. So for the price variance, is the actual standard, right? So we look at our price variance. How do we get our price variance? We said direct material standard is this, and each one is $3, right? And then, but our actual is we totally used 1,600. So I said, do me a favor when you put 1,600 there, put 1,600 here. And then our actual is we purchased at 5.75 for one unit, right? For one pint. So your standard said is $3, but your actual is 5.75. So you have a favorable or unfavorable. First, you know it's unfavorable. And then how much is it? For one pin, you spend 2.75 extra, and totally you purchased 1,600. Totally you purchased 1,600. So it will be 4,400 unfavorable. 4,400 unfavorable as our price variance. Okay. Next one. Asking about the quantity variance. So let's do it one more time with the quantity variance. So we said it's actual standard and the standard. We focus on the quantity. We said the standard price is 3.75. Do me a favor when you put 3.75 there, put 3.75 here. And then actual quantity is we used 2,400 paint. But standard said we should use 2,300, right? This one told you directly. 2,300. So you thought you should use 2,300, but actually you used 2,400. So you will have unfavorable. You use the more quantity, right? You use more quantity. You used 100 paint more, and then each one is 3.75. So you will have 375 unfavorable as the quantity variance. Okay, next one, I'm not going to do all the calculation. I'm just putting my thought here. You can see they are still asking about the price variance or the quantity variance. Let's look at this one. For the price variance, you have the for the price variance. So it's actual standard and the standard. For the price variance, we said that the actual is you used the direct material used 7,500, right? 7,500, and the standard the actual price you can just put 30,000 here as overall, but you can also calculate. So you totally spend 30,000, but it's for 7,500 pounds. So each one is $4, right? So 1 pound is $4. But standard said 1 pound should be $3. 1 pound should be $3. So standard said 1 pound is $3, but you actually spend $4. So you spend more than the standard. So you have an unfavorable. And then for each pound you spend $1 extra. So total you will have 7,500 unfavorable as price variance. The question 17. Let's look at question 17. It's asking about the the quantity variance, right? We said quantity variance. So it's actual standard and then standard. Okay, so you still have this following information, and then the standard cost we said standard cost is $5 per pound. I said, do me a favor when you put $5 here, put $5 here, right? And then our actual pounds is we use the 7,400 pounds. We use the 7,400 pounds. And then our standard is we said for each unit we should use 3 pounds. And actually we produced 5,400 units. Each unit we should use 3 pounds. So if we do the number, that's a big number, right? So let's do this number together. 5,400 times 3 gives me 16,200. Okay, so based on the standard, it's 16,200 pounds, but actually you only use the 7,400. Wow, you are so great, right? You are great. So you saved minus 7,400, and then you saved 8,800 pounds. So definitely it's a favorable result. And each pound is $5. So totally we saved $44,000. So that's our favorable results. Okay, one thing I want to point out is when we do our standard, we always use our actual output. Okay, so here is very important. We use our actual output. Look at here. We said actually we produced 5,400 units. We budget is produce 5,300 units. But when we do our standard, is we always use our actual output. We use the actual output of 5,400 units we actually produce. So this is very important. We have to use the actual. Okay, next one. Let's look at next one. Asking you about the price variance. So let's look at this one. As I say, I may not go through the number. I just look at the concept with you, and then let's look at what speak is about. Price variance. So actual standard. We said actual purchased. Okay, actual purchase. So this told you directly is $4,250, but it said it's 1,700, and then each grams will be let's see, 4,250 divided by 1,700 gives me 2.5, right? So each one, the standard we said is 2.5. No, the actual is $2.5 for 1 gram, and then actual is 1,700 grams. The standard said for standard is $3. For standard is $3. So standard said 1 gram we should cost $3, but for whatever we got $2.5 per gram, we have a good deal. So you can say it's definitely will be favorable. And then if we do the calculation, it's $850 favorable as our price variance. Okay, next one, asking you about our quantity variance. So look at this one, standard cost material per yard, and then standard direct material per unit. So we said, how do we get this one? Let's look at the number one more time. I'll just look at the concept with you, okay? So actual standard. Actual standard, so this number is actual, you totally used 1,100. You totally used 1,100 yards, and the standard said for 1 yard is 2 standard material. For 1 yard is $5. Okay, for 1 yard is $5. Okay, for 1 yard is $5. and then you totally the standard said how many yards you should use. I see. You produced 1,000 t-shirt, right? 1,000 t-shirt, and each t-shirt standard said 2.5 yard. Okay, so based on the standard, you should use 2,500 yards, but actually you only used 1,100 yards. So you really saved a lot of material, right? So we definitely have a favorable quantity variance. And then we time our each one, so we get 7,000 favorable. Okay, you can see I really put a lot of questions for you to practice. I don't want to waste your time. I think I leave these questions for you to do it by yourself. Asking about the quantity variance, very similar. You produced these cars, and then for each car, your standard still is 2 tons. So you get this one, and the actual tons is 6,600. Then the standard cost is $15 per ton. So you should get this one by yourself. I'll just skip this one. Okay, I think I stop here. I don't want to have a long video. I stop here, and then we do the next, the other questions in the next video. Okay, so let me know if you have any question. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.